Straight
Opportunity is in the opposites. And this is something that I allude to often when I'm talking to audiences, and there are many different examples of people talking about this. Anyone I listen to in the business world talks about this. Personal development talk about it. Doesn't matter what angle you're taking, it is completely true. The first thing, let's just establish as a baseline that most people are average by definition. Most people by definition are average in any aspect of life. In business, you have the average income in the professional world. In business, you got the average business. In fitness, you got the average person. In any aspect of life, you have the average basic level person. And I'm going to assume that you watching this are watching it because you want to be something better than or above average, regardless of where you stand right now. Maybe you're already above average, you want to stay there. Maybe you are average and you want to get out of there. Maybe you're below average and you have big ambitions and you want to go higher. The opportunity in life is simply to look around. One way you can take advantage of this is to look around at what everyone else, quote unquote, is doing, how they're handling themselves, how they conduct themselves, and ask yourself, if I was to do the exact opposite of what I see, where's the opportunity? Now understand that when I say the opportunities and the opposites, that doesn't mean, don't take it literally to mean that you should just do the opposite of every single thing that you see. For example, I'm driving right now, and for the most part in the United States, when you have the yellow lines in the street, you drive on the right side of the yellow line. So the opposite of that would be to drive on the left side of the yellow line, which could lead to a car accident or you getting pulled over and arrested for reckless driving. Doesn't mean literally just do the opposite of every single thing everyone does, because there are times when it makes sense to basically do the same thing everyone else is doing. So I want you to think on a higher level here, okay? And ask yourself, if I did the opposite of what I see everyone else doing, or if in your current situation in life, you are getting results that you deem to be unacceptable or not at the level that you want them to be, just ask yourself the question, if I just started doing the opposite of what I am doing, how would I do it? In what ways would I apply it? And where may there be some opportunity there? And this may require, actually not may, but probably will require you doing some testing. If I just did the opposite of this. So for example, if you are a content creator, or let's use content creator, I'm making content right now. And let's say you put out content once a week and you decide to do the opposite. And the opposite is not really an opposite of once a week, but let's just say you decide instead of doing it once a week, what if I just put out content once a month? What would happen? What would I do different? Or instead of once a week, what if I put out content every day? What would happen? What would be different? Or if you put out content every day, what if I went to only once a day? Not once a day. If you put out content every day, what if I went to once a week? What if I just completely flipped the script on how I'm currently operating because I'm getting average results? Or if I flip the script on what I see everyone else doing, because I see everyone else by definition, again, are average, how could I create an opportunity for myself? This is really, it starts, ladies and gentlemen, as a thought experiment of you just asking yourself the question, what if I did differently than what I'm currently doing, or differently than what I see is the accepted mode of operation around here? How could I do things different? For example, there was a guy who was in sales and he worked in like a sales room. He was sitting in the sales room and they just be on the phone, just make calls all day, and from 9 to 5. And he wanted to, of course, make more sales. So he asked himself, all right, how could I create an opportunity here? What's the opportunity? So the opportunity would be, instead of getting into the office and making sales calls from 9 to 5 like everybody else, how about I get to the office early and I make my sales calls from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then I make more calls from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the strategic advantage that he found by testing this out was that the people who he needed to talk to make sales anyway, the decision makers, they were the people who, because they were the decision makers, they were the people in power. And as a general rule, the people in power in a business, they usually either get there early before the average people get there, like the workers and the rank and file. They either get there early or they stay late. And that's one of the reasons why it's usually often one of the reasons how they got into a position of power, and is also one of the reasons that they stay in a position of power, because they're doing a little bit more work than everybody else is doing. They're working when everybody else is off work. And at the same time, when you're a person, any of you who's ever done any type of cold calling to make sales, you know that the person who is most in your way of making the sale is not the decision maker, it's the gatekeeper. It's like the administrator, secretary, the person who basically intercepts the call when you're trying to reach the president. They're the president's secretary who is going to take a message and block you from getting to the president, which is literally their job. But what this guy found out was that, damn, if I made calls from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., the secretary did not get to work yet. Therefore, the call goes straight to the president and I can actually make sales. Again, I'm giving you this as an example to just help you all visualize and illustrate that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, the opportunity is in looking at how things are normally accepted to be done and ask yourself, oh, where can I flip this? And when you flip it, you're going to find yourself doing things that are completely different from everybody else. And that's where the opportunity is. Now, let me tell you what the challenge is to doing this. The challenge to doing this is that when you start doing it, first of all, you may not get immediate success. So you may be, let's say, scared into going back to doing what everybody else does. Bad idea. Don't let yourself fall into that trap. Secondly, when you start doing opposite from what everybody else is doing, even if it's working, some of the people who are still following the conventional rules are going to try to attack you, scare you, cajole you, convince you, or ridicule you, or just try to advise you to just stick to the script and do what everybody else does. Why? Because that's how people are. People are average, and they're going to advise you to do what they do, which is being average. So you had to resist this push from average people, and they're going to be pushing you to be more average like they are. Why? Because human beings are wired for social connection, and if you're doing something different than what everybody else is doing, first of all, everybody else is not going to like the fact that you're separating yourself from them. Secondly, they may hate it if you are doing it successfully. Third, they don't want to do it. Even if you're showing them exactly what you're doing and it'd be easy for them to do the same thing, they won't do it until it becomes widely accepted, and most people generally are slow to adapt to things. And fourth, you're the one who maybe feel a little bit sheepish or nervous or anxious because you will be isolating yourself intentionally by doing things different than what everybody else does. This is the reason why most people can understand logically everything that I'm saying, but you don't actually do it. Even though logically it makes perfect sense to you, right? What I'm explaining to you makes sense. Most people won't even try it, not because you don't get it, but simply because of the fear of going against the grain of what you have been taught to do and what you've seen everybody else do for the last 30, 15, 27 years of your life. This is the way you've been living, and I'm sitting here talking to you for 8 minutes about why you should do something completely different than what you've been doing your whole life. Sounds good, but are you really willing to make that change that quick? What I'll advise you here is the faster you're willing to make that change and the faster you do, the quicker you can get to the results that you want to get to. The problem here is not logical. The problem is not rational. The problem is emotional. The emotional problem is that we get emotionally connected to our habits and our modes of operation and our ways of being, and this is the reason why we don't change, even though someone like myself or anyone else can preach to you for 10 minutes or 10 hours about how doing things different than how you've been taught or the way you've currently been thinking or the way you've always thought might be the opportunity, and you'll get it and be like, that makes sense, but then you won't do it. So where's the opportunity? Everybody got it? Okay. You want help with this and want me to directly coach you on how to do it, just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where I do all my coaching. The link's down below in the description, wherever you're watching this. Work on your game. Dre all day.